Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimaloe in Abuja. Tonight, we'll be dissecting for you the state of the nation as it affects you. The money in your pockets, your purchasing power, those who have taken to the street, labor is planning protests, things are affecting the security situation affecting the productivity in the land. All of these are the buck on the table of the president. What will he do next? We'll be getting some insight from one of Nigeria's elder statesmen, one person. When he speaks, you need to listen. And tonight also, I will take you to Edo State to listen to the perspectives on this Edo APC governorship primary. Things are really fast developing. In fact, one of those who have been declared as winner in that process had gone to the APC headquarters to say, give me the certificate of return. We'll be getting all of these perspectives tonight. Legal, political, and otherwise. Stay with me, everyone. But first, before I bring you the elder statesman on the program tonight, let's check out some of your political ramp stories.
President Bola Tinubu is back in Abuja from Ethiopia, where he went to attend the African Union Summit. The president departed Addis Ababa this morning and arrived at Abuja around 3:40 p.m. While he was in Ethiopia, the president participated in the 44th Ordinary Session of the Executive Council, held bilateral meetings, and attended other events on the sidelines of the AU Summit. Justice Emeka Nwite of the Federal High Court in Abuja has struck out the charge of treasonable felony brought against the convener of the Revolution Now movement, Omoyele Sowore, by the federal government. Justice Nwite struck out the charge following the notice of discontinuance filed by the federal government through the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation before the court last week, Friday, 16th February. While striking out the charges against Sowore, the court ordered the State Security Service to return 3 phones and 10,500 naira cash collected from him. The trial judge also ordered that Showore's international passport and title deeds deposited to the court for perfection of his bail conditions be returned to him. In Rivers State, there may be a political storm brewing within the state chapter of the All Progressives Congress, as the elected officials of the party are insistent that they're still in charge of the party in the state, in spite of dissolution announced by the party's National Working Committee. At a press briefing in Port Harcourt, the elected chairman Emeka Beke and publicity secretary both said they're surprised and will want to debunk several insinuations in the media space that Mr. Beke had now aligned himself with the FCT minister, Nyesom Wike. On his part, the publicity secretary gives an update on their court case, challenging what he described as their unjust dissolution.
This is actually embarrassing that the party will not understand what our constitution says. Now, the former constitution actually does empower the National Working Committee to dissolve other layers beneath it.
Some youth and women groups in the All Progressives Congress in Edo State today staged a protest at the party secretariat in Benin City, the Edo State capital, in protest against the outcome of Saturday's primary election, which purportedly produced 3 winners. The group will remove furniture and other items from the secretariat and promised to camp outside the facility for the next 7 days. Also alleged sabotage on the part of the state executive, which they claim had received financial inducements to counter the election committee's declaration. Meanwhile, another group within the APC, known as the APC Renewed Hope Coalition, has commended the APC Governorship Primary Election Committee, headed by the governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodimma, for the transparency demonstrated in the conduct of the exercise. The group also passed a vote of confidence on the committee and urged members of the party to work together in their quest to take Edo to greater heights. To Kogi State, where some Kogi East critical stakeholders say they want the immediate past governor of the state, Mr. Yahaya Bello, to give account of his financial spending during his 8 years as governor of the state, calling on the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, to assist in the recovery of Kogi State assets in various locations where the former governor allegedly sold some properties of the state to himself. At a news conference in Abuja, the group led by Alhaji Sule Iyaji also called on the state governor, Usman Ododo, to reinstate the 4 traditional rulers unlawfully dethroned by the former Governor Bello for the interest of peace and harmony in the state.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us on the program. So some residents of Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, have also joined the protest against the current economic hardship being witnessed or experienced by citizens in the country. The protesters who have at least 3 convergent points in Iwo Road, Sango, and Mokola were seen carrying placards with different inscriptions depicting the depth of their agitations and their worries about the state of the economy. They are chanting various songs calling on the government to live up to the electoral promises and stop the sufferings across the nation. Take a listen to some of the protesters.
Enough of this hike in cost of living. No, we cannot afford to eat 3 square meals a day. Why those that are governing us, they can eat and they are even riding on our own money. What they extort from us is what they used to live lavishly.
We just want to peacefully protest and tell the government what we want. It is our civil right. They should just help us and give us what we want. Insecurity is killing the nation. Hunger is killing the nation.
All right, we're understanding there are talks between the Nigerian government and some manufacturers, especially those in the cement manufacturing, perhaps to slash what has become a rising rate of the prices of that product. And we'll be getting some news in that respect later on. But I'm being joined tonight on the state of the economy, the state of the nation, security in the land, and perhaps where we are tonight, today in the country. I'm being joined by a former member of the House of Representatives, in all sense of it, an elder statesman, a political activist, and scholar, Dr. Usman Bugaje. He joins us live here in our Abuja studio. It's a pleasure having you, and it's good to see you again.
My pleasure, Sean.
Thank you so much indeed. Where do we go from here? Did you ever imagine that the Naira is going to sell to the dollar at about 1,500? Did you ever imagine that cement is going to sell up to 10,000 Naira in some part of Nigeria? Did you ever imagine that noodles is going to sell for what is sold today, tomatoes, sardine, and the rest of all of these essential commodities? A bag of rice has gone into a state that one will ever imagine in our lifetime.
Certainly, a lot of the things that we are seeing today are not conceivable a few years back. Yes, we know that the country was going down the drain, and we could see a lot of the problems.
So we could see that this was going to happen years back?
No, not as bad as it is at the moment. Certainly, the speed with which it has happened and the depth of the problems that we have found ourselves are not things that we had anticipated. Yes, we could see the problem. I remember as far back as 2007, well, actually 2005, 2007, there were signs. And I remember then I was the member of the PDP in the House of Representatives, and I did draw the attention of the chairman of our party, Chief Audu Obe then, that things are likely to get worse if policies do not change. And I specifically drew his attention to a book written by Robert Kaplan with the title, The Coming Anarchy. I did a review article of that, about 15 pages, which I also made available to him and I shared to some of our colleagues. And in that review article, I was myself shocked reading it nearly 15, 16, 17 years after. It is speaking to the issues that we are actually witnessing today. It's just like when the last regime took over in 2015, by 2016, it was clear that it did not have the capacity to deliver. But even then, we never expected that they would, do the level of pillage and, basically looting of the treasury, as it's becoming very clear at the moment. Similarly, we had expected that when this leadership, or when the new government took over from Tinubu, we were expecting that he has around him expertise. And we were expecting that for him to have announced the removal of subsidy, he must have done a plan, something that will address the consequences of that. You don't take a policy without make a policy without looking at the consequences and preparing to cushion the effect of that. But apparently, he did that without any preparation. And so what is happening at the moment is something that has been anticipated. But like I said, the extent to which it has come is something that is baffling. And I still think those in government, talking to them, they don't seem to even understand this reality. They seem to think that is somebody somewhere manipulating something.
So you think there is a disconnect?
I think so. Because you see,
from people around the president.
Yeah. If you want to know what is happening, talk to the to the pastors and to the imams, because that's where poor people run to. They have easy access to these people, and they go to them normally, because when you are in this big trouble, you look for God, right? You sort of surrender more, because you have come to the end of your wits. You have nothing more to. And from these people, we have information that people are actually, some of them are eating dead meat. There are people who are feeding their families with dead meat because they have nothing.
Nigerians are pushed to the wall.
Exactly.
They've come to the wit end.
Exactly. So if they knew what is happening, they wouldn't be doing the kind of terrible thing they are doing. Are you disappointed?
Because you mentioned President Bola Tinubu is someone you know very well. You perhaps at some point worked closely with him. Are you surprised at the outcome or the performance of his government in the last 8 months?
I have said it, Sean, I'm extremely disappointed. I used to know him to be someone who is always reading, is always engaging, but I have not seen that at all. And I can see a lot of sycophancy around him. People are not engaging him. They are not telling him the truth. And he seems to be very comfortable with the kind of people that he has around them that don't seem to have any ideas in their head. They don't seem to have any solution to the problems that we have. And they're always trying to find excuses. I understand one of the ministers was even saying that things are improving. How can they be improving when people are in the mess they are at the moment? How can they be improving when the insecurity has reached that level where even Abuja, the capital, is not safe? How can things be improving? And they are, when they come to the solutions, they are repeating what has been done 40 years ago without any success. They are looking at controlling prices. How can you control the prices of things that you don't have? I mean, Buhari in his military era, tried doing that. Opening stores and giving, but that didn't solve the problem. And we're talking about palliatives. Government has demonstrated very clearly that they are the worst handlers of palliative. They have never done this thing very well. From the COVID time to date, we have seen how much scandals are now. So, it's not something that
Buhari came into power. There are a lot of expectation because Nigerians thought, this is a military general who will understand the sound of the guns and how to silence it and how to deal with the insurgency in the country. And he said that he will quench it. Now, this is a Bola Tinubu, the Nigeria's president, who is seen as an accomplished accountant, a tax man who understands the figures and perhaps knows just how well to deal with economic issues. And that's why I asked you whether or not you were disappointed.
Well, today,
or do you think he has the capacity to be able to turn things around?
Today is everybody's knowledge that Bola Tinubu has no solution to the problems of this country.
Really?
If anything, well, let's see it. Let's see it if he has. I mean, the last 6 months or so, this government has been fumbling and tumbling. We have not seen any solution, not to the security situation, not to the food situation, not to the issue of jobs, even investments, where they claim to look at the value of the naira. These, experts that he has brought to handle the central bank, you can see they are fumbling. The value of the naira is constant. We never expected that it would get this bad.
But there are those who will say, look, there are some political manipulation. There are the fifth columnist. There are those who are trying to play around this issue. We have had
this regime after regime. If you cannot handle this, why did you even come in the first place? No excuses. You applied for this job. You should know that there will be fifth columnists. You should know that there are people who will sabotage you. What are the police doing? What are the SSS doing? What are all the instruments of coercion that you have within government are they doing? What are you doing?
Would it be fair to refer to the Tinubu government as failing after just 8 months in office?
It's very clear. You don't need any analysis. It has failed to address the most essential
It's
issues.
not even spent up to 1 year in office.
Yeah, but you can see clearly. And if you go back to the Constitution, the very purpose of government is the welfare and security of the people. Where is the welfare? Where is the security? Where is the future? All this talk about hope, people have turned it to say, it's not a new, it's a revived hardship. They are moving from one hardship to worse hardship that they are facing now. And it's very clear. And I have not seen the solution. Most of the things that they have spoken about are no solution.
Dr. Bugaje,
they don't seem to have even the idea of exactly where to go.
Look at it, and the president will say, look, we're making some policies that will cause some hardship. It will take some time, but we are turning things around. Can we give him a benefit of the doubt that things, according to the words of the president, maybe things can turn around?
Sheun, these things, in the 21st century, governance is a corporate scientific business. It's not something mystical. Where are the figures? Bring out the figures, do the projections. This is how the world is run today, right? Do we know how much food we are producing at the moment? We should. Do we know how much petrol we are selling? We should. Did we know how much revenue we're expecting? What are our bills? How do we solve this? The figures should be able to be rolled out today. But you keep speaking in general terms with nothing specific, and things are worsening. Even the policy itself of removing subsidy, you should not announce this policy or start this policy without an arrangement. For example, where is the subsidy that we have recovered after removal? How much is it? Where do you want to apply it? From what we know, there are 4 areas that you can apply these subsidies that can ease life for the ordinary person. One is food. Second, transportation, health, and education. How much of these amount that has been recovered, from the subsidy? We don't even know the figure. And we don't know where it is. And nobody is talking in terms of facts and figures. They're just talking in very general terms, very, very ambiguous, and nothing specific.
Nothing in the activities of this government do you think is in the right direction? Do you? Do you see any of their actions or policies in the right direction?
At the moment, the most important thing is hunger and insecurity. In the hierarchy of human needs, human life comes first. And I've not seen anything done. Of course, we see the National Assembly discussing with the security chiefs and passing a vote of confidence. Isn't that an insult to this country? After all that we know that is happening, every day people are being killed. More places are being deserted. More people are leaving their homes and languishing on the streets. And we are passing a vote of confidence to these people. What have they done? What are the metrics? How do you measure performance? This is an insult. And that is why I said some of these people don't seem to know exactly what is happening. If they do, they will not say so.
There are those who will say the action of the president, and let's be realistic, the indices were there that anyone who took over power from Muhammadu Buhari was going to face an uphill task in putting this country together, in firming it up as a unit, and also fixing the economic and insecurity issues that we'll face. There are no doubt that the angelest of the angels will have to face an uphill task in fixing this country. But the promises that we got from each and every one that wanted to be president gave some kind of hope that there is competition of ideas. Now the president, Bola Tinubu, is in office. And there are those who believe that Atiku said he was going to remove subsidy. Peter Obi said he was going to remove subsidy. Likewise, some others. Now, Tinubu has done that. Those who will say these are ideas that were being preached by all of these candidates.
I was
in that sense. Those who believe that there was a far-reaching criminal enterprise within the oil and gas sector, that removing subsidy was a brilliant idea, don't you think?
It was a good idea, but wait. You have to look at the consequences. What have you planned to do with that money that you are now going to gain by removing subsidy? Where are you going to channel it? Because you know, the moment you remove subsidy, prices are going to go up. The poor man is going to lose his purchasing power. And people will not be able to go to hospitals. People will not be able to take their children to school. People will not be able to eat. Small criminal activities in the society will rise up. So what are you doing to do that? That is why I said governance is a corporate scientific business.
So you don't think the President Tinubu contemplated these consequences?
They are not ready at all. They thought perhaps it's a tea party. Because if you are going to have to do that, I agree, it's a good idea because a lot of it is fraud. But wait, how do you now address the consequences of your own decision? And they are now themselves surprised by the consequences of their own decision.
Do you think that singular action and statement caused all of these problems?
Yes, it did. But let me put it more in perspective. You see, when you are going to run a government, and he must have, he has run his state government for some time, you would know that anytime there are processes in policy making and policy implementation, you don't just stand up and announce a policy without a thorough check of what are the consequences and how are you going to address the consequences.
So it was a disaster from day one.
So it appears that he did not know exactly what the consequences were. He just went ahead, which is a very reckless thing to do. In any case, now that he has done it, I asked the question, where is the amount that we are saving from the removal of subsidy? Where is it going? Right? And because I have been 4 years in the executive arm of government, at the top level in the presidency, where all the problems are brought, right, and put on the table. I have been in the legislature. I have run, a party as national secretary. So I have an idea. And I can tell you exactly when a government comes, I can see what is it that they are doing that is likely to address. From that perspective, I have not seen any preparation.
What do you think that because we are in a dire situation, now we are seeing protests every day on the street. And you remind me of Kaplan. When you mentioned it, just remember flipping through the pages at first when I got in contact with the book and having to read it in some details. Let me just remind you or remind our viewers, for those who have not read Kaplan's book, The Coming Anarchy, that portion that you mentioned, he mentioned the proliferation of crime. And he says, in itself, it is not quite the problem, for it is a symptom of the failure of government.
Exactly.
Which itself is often a result of cumulative abuse of office and bad governance, which in turn elicits anarchy. Some parts that because he spoke about Sierra Leone, Liberia, and some other parts of the nation, of the continent. Now, in specific reference to Nigeria, he says in Nigeria it is likely to be even bleaker, as the smugglers whose activities killed local industry and destroyed jobs have moved from the periphery to the center and now calling the shots.
Precisely.
And these were years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And I brought it out in the review article and showed it to the chairman of the party, the ruling party at that time, and made every effort to bring a team of experts to study and to work out a plan so that we have a strategy to address these issues. But they were not listening. The politicians were typically interested in the immediate, gains that they can make and what opportunities are there to make money. Now, let me go back to, because you talk about specific, and I think we should try to be specific. Right. When this thing was announced, I reached out to my former chairman and said, Chairman, sir, I can see a lot of problems here. And this country is going to be soon in very big soup. I'm not sure if those who are in government really understand it. He said, what can we do? I said, let me give you my thoughts. And I went into research just to find out what is available. And I discovered in 2021 a government document, a policy document, Nigeria's program for pathways to the food system, which is a United Nations thing done following the COVID. Because when COVID came, there were lots of studies to show how can we recover from the COVID. And there were programs, lined up. And these things are basically saying, how do you make the food system secure? How do you improve in the productivity? And how do you make sure that these things are arranged in such a way that food will be safe, good food will be cheap and available? And all the things that they have said is exactly what we have not done. Now, what struck me is that it does not appear that those people who are in this government are even aware of this document. It's a government document. It's a government policy. So I have a copy if they don't have. Dr. But Bugaje, nobody, in all the people who have been talking, I've not seen anybody make a reference to any of such
this protest, right? Happened in Niger State, now happening in your state. Is this a coming anarchy that we're facing?
Of course. Of course, that's the point. The point is that I've not seen anything that when you hear the ministers speak, when you hear government officials speak, they do not even have an idea of exactly what to do. Now, this is the danger. We have a huge problem in our hands. Government is busy sharing money, looting the treasury, enjoying themselves, running around to France and other places, and there is no. It doesn't even appear that there's anybody in charge.
Let's borrow wisdom from you. If there is one thing to do, and the president perhaps watching you tonight, to fix this problem, where do we start from? It's an urgent need.
There are three things.
Okay.
When he spoke about strategic reserves, from what I know, I don't know if they have told him the truth. We don't have strategic reserves. Almost all the silos that you see have been rented out.
The president has said 1,002
there is no
tons
food.
Of grains should be released.
There is no food.
Really?
What they are likely to do is to quickly go to the market to mop up what is available.
And that's going to put light to the president.
The demand and supply equation will make the food situation for the ordinary person worse.
Could they have lied to the president? Because the president spoke as though the storage is there.
Sheung, I was in the National Assembly. I was in the Finance Committee for 4 years. We never got to know exactly what this country makes from oil. And up till today, I understand we still don't have the figures. There was a time, a particular budget year, that we brought in the Revenue Mobilization and the Revenue Mobilization Commission. We brought in the CBN. We brought in the NNPC. We brought in the all the financial institutions. We put them in one room. We said, we will not leave you go until you give us one figure. Because amongst them, nobody has, they don't even agree in the figures. Now, I'm just saying this is the country we have been running. So even the figures that they are giving for agriculture, when you actually do a check, and I will ask you, a journalist, to really go to the Ministry of Agriculture, there is a department on strategic reserves, and there is a head of that. Let him take you around and let you count and see how many metric tons are there, whether they meet up with the president.
So you were mentioning those things that need to be done. We need to wrap up in 6 seconds.
One, we need to do the food, the food system. Now, if you take a census of what you have to find a way of subsidizing, the food directly,
from the farmers.
Yeah. Not in the form of palliatives. No, the farmers, you have to plan for this rainy season coming and the dry seasons. You have to be able to bring down the input and do things that will raise the productivity. Now, time will not allow for me to, but I give you just an example. The vegetables we produce in Nigeria, the productivity of vegetables in Nigeria is less than half the African average. the tomatoes we produce is less than a quarter of the African average. Almost everything that I can give you the figures, because this is a field I have been working on for the last few years. And every effort we have done to raise this productivity is resisted by both the state government and the federal government. Cuba, this country, this small Caribbean, country. For example, the African average for tomatoes is about 20 metric tons. Nigeria does barely 5 or so metric tons per hectare. Cuba does 120 metric tons per hectare.
Wow.
And Cuba has offered us tuition free to train our people. And they gave us, bring an agronomist, agricultural engineers, soil scientists, this and that, and we will train them free. And we will follow them up and show them how to do innovation centers. And I've been on this for 5 years through FARA. FARA is the Forum for Agricultural Research in Africa. It's an AU body with its headquarters in Ghana.
Dr. Bugaje.
We have gone to Africa in Nairobi. We have taken some people to go and study. There are things that we have tried doing, and this government simply doesn't understand. These politicians don't read. They have no idea of how to run. All ideas is just about how do they do budget and steal and loot the treasury. And that's where we are where we are.
Dr. Bugaje, we need to go now. But always a pleasure having you.
My
and
pleasure.
I see the light at the end of the tunnel, not because I literally see one, but because I am an incurable optimist about the project Nigeria, and I do believe that this country is ended.
Maybe one last word.
Okay.
You see, Sheun, it's okay we can blame the government, but that doesn't solve our problem. I can say that the government has failed to do this. I think the elite in this country need to be more organized and more productive. We have people who have got the expertise. And if we come together and say, this is what we want, we can meet the people in the National Assembly.
All right.
I mean, it's our country, right?
Absolutely.
So
and it's for all of
it
us.
doesn't give me pleasure that I have a government that is failing. I'm not pleased about it. And I'm not pleased talking about it. I'm angry, but I'm also saddened.
Right.
But we have the expertise. And so all the Falanas, the Abakobas, the college teamers, all these leaders of civil society that have around them expertise, we should all come together and say, hey, this is the way out.
From a unit
and let it be on record.
Group, yeah.
Let it be on record that we have done what we need to do when we need to do it.
Dr. Usman Bugaje, a political activist, a former member of the House of Reps in every sense of the word. He's an elder statesman. Thank you so much. We're full of knowledge and wisdom also. Thank you so much, Dr. Bugaje, for your time tonight.
My pleasure.
We take a break, everyone. And when we return, I'll be speaking to 2 gentlemen. They will be giving us deep analysis into what happened and what did you not see in the news as regarding Edo APC governorship primary. Join me again, everyone, after this break. Thank you so much, everyone, and welcome back to the program. One of the 3 aspirants laying claim to the All Progressives Congress governorship ticket in Edo State, Honorable Anamero Dekeru, is a sitting member of the House of Representatives. Today stormed the national headquarters of the party in Abuja to demand a certificate of return. Dekeru's action is coming in the wake of a demonstration in Edo where some angry youths and women reportedly took over the party secretariat and demanded the immediate sack or dissolution of the state executive led by the acting chairman, Mr. Jarrett Tanebe, following the outcome of the February 17 primary, the governorship primary election, where the chairman of the electoral committee of the primary and governor of Imo State, Senator Hope Uzodinma, had announced Mr. Dennis Idahosa as winner, while returning officer Stanley Buaja declared Senator Monday of Pueblo as winner at the primary, parallel primary election. Well, Mr. Tunje Ojo Olatunje, who claimed to be representing the returning officer in all the local government, declared Anamero Dekeru. It looks like a confused situation. let's get to speak about this one. I have two gentlemen by the language that comes out of their tongue. They speak Edo, both of them. One is a lawyer, one is a politician. Kazim Apegua has been live in our Abuja studio, while Liboros Oshoma is in London, virtually joining us to speak about this matter. Thank you so much, Mr. Oshoma, for joining us.
Thank you, Shehu. And I greet my brother Kasim.
Yeah. He's the prince of, he calls himself the prince of Okpila. When I say he calls himself, he gets upset because he says he's actual prince.
Afegwa is a royal family in Okpila, I remember.
All right, Liboros, give us an understanding from a legal point of view. How much of a confusion this is? Is this a confusion or a contraption, or is there a clear path in this matter?
Yeah. I would say APC knows what they are doing. It's unfortunate. There's a clear path. For the first time in the history of APC primaries, while setting up committees, while the National Working Committee is setting up a committee, an election committee, for the first time in their history, they appointed a returning officer. Before now, what you hear is a chairman of the electoral committee. That's what we knew before now. But unfortunately for them, they appointed an electoral officer for the first time in the history of conducting direct primaries. And so what is the duty of a returning officer? Constitutionally speaking, the duty of a returning officer is to make a return. The returning officers at the local government level are to make returns at the local government level, and then those election results announced from the local government are collated at the state's headquarters, where the returning officer will now make a return. APC did not, when appointing those people, did not spell out the function of the chairman. They didn't say that the chairman of the electoral committee shall be the chief returning officer, legally speaking. So it is presumed, unlike the INEC rules, which clearly spells out that the chairman of INEC shall be the chief returning officer for the election. So in as far as those state election is concerned, there's a clear path because they on their own appointed a returning officer. But unfortunately, like we know political parties, they create confusion. And like I always say, court is sitting on its own, and then you now create confusion and will now want the court to unwrap those confusions so created.
But give us an understanding, legally speaking, from what you see and what you know, who is the candidate of the APC from that Saturday event, at the combination of all of the events?
Legally speaking, the candidate of the APC is the one as announced by the returning officer of the primaries of the election committee, not the one as announced by the chairman. So legally speaking,
there is one announced by Ojo Babatunde, who is the one of the local government.
No.
The announced Honorable Dekeri. There's one announced by Ugwaja.
Ugwaja is the returning officer for the election. I didn't make him the returning officer. It is the state's. It is the National Working Committee that made him the returning officer. Let me quickly take your mind, Shehu, to the case of Adamawa, where the resident electoral commissioner made a return. Until date, he's facing trial for making a return when he is constitutionally not allowed to make such return since there's a returning officer. In the case of Babatunde is a local government returning officer. A local government returning officer is to make returns at the local government level, legally speaking. It is not the duty of a local government returning officer to make return at the state level. So it is the return officer at the state level. It is the constitutional responsibility of that return officer to make the returns.
Let me allow the prince himself to speak to this matter.
Issued a statement which is part of the terms of reference given to the chairman that unauthorized, issue a disclaimer that only authorized person, in this case the chairman of the committee, can announce result of that particular election. And the returning officer, so-called, cannot work in isolation. You have a committee set up, chairman by Hope Uzodinma and Governor of Cross River, Basi Otu, and about 6 other members. if the so-called returning officer wants to return a candidate, he cannot work in isolation. He cannot sit in his place. But the public secretary of the party issued a statement. This is purely issue of internal mechanisms of the party, saying that the chairman of the committee is the one who is validly recognized to announce results. That was very unambiguous and unequivocal. So what they were trying to do, the other side, we know what is playing out or what played out. They had a script badly managed by bad actors, and they were caught in their own game. Because you can't start announcing results 8 local governments from 1 p.m. in an Edo that even some places, because of bad rules, now you can travel at 5 hours, some places 6 hours before you get to the center. That is one. 2, you said the venue for the announcement of that is Collation Center. You said it was vandalized. You pack everything, you went to the house of a participant to go and be announcing.
Whose house?
Pastor Izoyamu. That was where they were announcing.
But they said that they designated and they wrote INEC to designate
in Pastor
that venue. That venue that was vandalized was the designated.
Okay, but that was not where they declared the entire results.
But they were thought invasion.
No, they said they have declared 6 local governments, 8 local governments in that venue. They said it was vandalized. I think the guys were adopted to the premises, a private residence, and he was declaring results of a participant. Is that what you say? Because the law is an act, so the man now validly elected somebody.
Do you agree with liberals on the point of law?
There's no point of law in this one. See, wait, APC.
The process of this election is a legal matter. It's cast in stone and it's cast in the books.
There are judgments. Even liberals know that there are a series of judgments that when it comes to internal politics or parties or primaries and all of that, there are certain things that even the court can't interpret. Because even the party can just decide to choose somebody as a consensus candidate and say you are standing for us as an election. Just the same way that the Supreme Court said that anybody who it's only party that can determine who is his members, because Peter Obi was being challenged that he didn't. He's not validly a member of the Labour Party.
So why did the party appoint a chief returning officer?
You see, wait. We know what is playing out. The same party, the same elements, some elements who appointed a returning officer are the same persons who acted the script to return Monday Okpebolo. Because 2 days before the primaries, one of them had approached Dennis Idahosa to say, let's return Okpebolo and you can be his deputy. And the young man frowned at that. Now, the party, the public secretary of the party, the statement is issued defining the terms of reference, had already knocked out whatever rule they have given to Ubuaja.
So in terms of hierarchy and in the procedure of conducting an election, the chairman and the way liberals described it, let's assume that the chairman, which is Senator Hope Uzodinma, is the rec in that election. And Ubuaja, the chief returning officer, is the chief returning officer. In that order, who do you think has the prerogative?
It's not about who do I think. The party that sent them on errand issued a statement saying that this person is the one that is authorized, only authorized to announce results.
Let me liberals, this is what the party said.
Yes.
There is a statement. Let me allow you to look at it, and our viewers can also have a sense of what the party said.
The statement.
There was a disclaimer in a statement released by the APC NWC, and it is known to law that the NWC of the party determines the governorship election and the terms of reference of you're taking the words out of my mouth of a governorship election primary. So speak to that, liberals.
Yeah, so that's terms of reference, that statement was an afterthought by the party. The party is governed by constitution and not terms of reference. I think my brother Kazim, we should discuss the law, the constitution of the party as regards conduct of primaries. It is also not true that the party can just unilaterally sit down and say somebody is a consensus candidate. All other candidates must agree. Section 84 of the Electoral Act has taken care of that. So what the party, my position here is that the party should abide by law. That statement issued by the public secretary of the party was an afterthought. Because when you appoint a committee, the terms of reference of that committee are spelled out upon appointment, not when the action or the job that the committee is appointed to do is ongoing. And then you now begin to bring other terms of reference. The terms of reference are properly spelled out. And if I must ask, why do you need to have a returning officer if he's not going to return election result, or if he's not going to return a candidate? And then the result as announced by Hope Uzodinma in Protea Hotel. Who collected those results? Who was the returning officer that gave Hope Uzodinma those results? If to also take what my brother Kazim has said, if they are to work together. What we see here is a house divided against itself. And so since you have a house divided against itself, there are a lot of contending interests. I have said it time and time again, APC, you don't have one APC. What you have is a marriage of strange bedfellows. But unfortunately, for the party, for the first time, they did not do it the way they are used to doing it. Just create a chairman. They appointed an electoral returning officer who did not play along with whatever script or whatever design that they wanted to achieve. And unfortunately, that's why you're having all of this. And I can tell you, take this matter anywhere, what you're going to have is that it is the return as made by the returning officer that is valid. All of those subsequent terms of references are terms of references that are afterthought, after the terms of references setting up the committee had been issued. All of those terms of references of the committee had been issued upon appointment. Conduct election, and a returning officer will make return. A chairman of the committee is to supervise. A vice chairman is to assist the chairman in the event that the chairman is unavailable. So a situation where you now have the returning officer having to make returns and the chairman, who is now like the resident electoral commissioner, usurping the powers of the returning officer.
It's going to be a fundamental question relating, just a moment, there are those who ask, what are the terms of reference as given to the committee on one hand? On another hand is also the provision of the constitution of the APC in that respect.
Exactly. Because the provisions of the constitution of the APC is for the National Working Committee to appoint members that will conduct the primary election. It is not the duty of the state ESCO to conduct election, because they will be biased since they are participants in the process. So that is why the National Working Committee constitutionally is empowered to appoint electoral umpires. And in appointing electoral umpires, the terms of reference, what is the duty of the chairman? Is it spelled out in the initial, original instrument that appointed those people, that the chairman shall be the one
Mr. Oshoma, does the venue where that result was announced, does it vitiate or not the validity of that result based on the venue?
It does. No, see, the question is, I don't want to go into
that it was announced in the house of a participant, of a contestant in the race.
I don't want to go into the politics of their venues. What I am looking at is strictly the legal position, because, like I say, the courts sit down their own and APC carry their wahala. At the end of the day, we're not asked to be interpreting what the position of the law is. And I stand strongly by the position of the law.
Let me allow Mr. Afegua to respond to some of the things.
Sorry, quickly. The position of the Constitution and the position of the instrument setting up that committee.
Mr. Afegua.
I was going to think that maybe Luberos has a copy of the letter appointing Hope Uzodinma as chairman. Maybe he has a copy of the terms of reference. Because you speak in the language of finality as if you have the details, and you are saying that the position of the...
Are you privy to it?
No. As you are saying that the position of the publicity secretary is an afterthought. How do you come to such a conclusion, for God's sake? If the publicity secretary is not aware that these were the terms of reference given to the chairman, you think he would just go and make that announcement, disclaiming the announcement by the so-called returning officer? So now you are a returning officer, you work in isolation. So Hope Uzodinma as chairman will just go and sit in the hotel looking at you. Then you pack your things, you went to somebody's house to go and be making returns according to you. Then that is the position. They had a script, no doubt. And from day one, Everybody knows that it was Hope Uzodinma who was going to do this. The returning officers at the local government level, at the ward level, and all of that, they collected results and sent to this thing. 1 o'clock is even a bad time for you to say you are returning, you are returning results. In an Edo, you should have waited for results to come from different local governments.
Where do you go from here, Prince? We're out of time. Where do we go from here?
Yeah. Nothing has happened. The candidate of the party is Dennis Idahosa.
All right.
That has been congratulated by the chairman of the party. And Hope Uzodinma submits his comprehensive report.
Liberals, where do you think the APC should go from here?
A certificate of return.
The APC, clearly, it's obvious that they have created a keg of gunpowder for themselves. And if care is not taken, they might not have a candidate in the election. Because as we speak, the matter definitely is going to court.
All right.
Lawyers who want to make some briefs. So I don't argue with that. Lawyers are looking for briefs. After all, Peter Obi spent more money hiring lawyers than campaigning on the election.
Prince,
spend their own money.
Gentlemen, thank you so much indeed. We look forward to how this and the APC are able to resolve this matter. Thank you so much, gentlemen. And that's our show for tonight. And thanks for watching, everyone. I'm sure Kimale. Bye-bye.